If you don't have this one skill, life is going to be extremely difficult because every time something goes wrong, and guess what? It's going to go wrong. You are just going to stay stuck. You're not going to be able to bounce back. And this word resilience is something that the more I got into business, honestly, that is when it really started to resonate with me. Because in business, especially when you're starting out and you think you're all that and you're a hotshot and you should know how to do everything and you know how to market and you know how to sell and you know how to create something, you're going to be able to sell your product, and you're different because of you, like all those things that we all say to ourselves. And we don't realize when it comes to sales or to business, we end up getting slapped in the face because you really have to know what you're doing in order to be good at it. And if you do not recognize this and you not bounce back, you are going to stay down for a very, very long time. So we need to start to ask ourselves, what is it we can start to do to allow ourselves to step into the role of being a resilient person? And what does resilience even mean to you? When is a time in your life that you were resilient? And when is the time in your life that you wish you were resilient? Where you were so excited, you were so gung-ho about a certain project, a person, an idea, and then all of a sudden it just crumbled in front of you. And now you're defeated and you just don't have any energy left because you spent so much time with it. And the question is, how are you going to bounce back? Because in life, especially for the things that mean something to us, there's going to be an end. Unfortunately, it just happens. But what we have to realize is if we don't make it end, if we could constantly be able to move forward, that picking ourselves up is going to be the thing that's going to be able to renew ourselves. And honestly, when we look back, that is going to be the time that really made us. It's going to be the time that really helped us be able to move forward. I recently spoke about a goal that I'm doing, and I'm waking up pretty early in the morning to do it. And there was one morning I woke up and I was just not in the mood. I just literally just didn't want to be doing it. And what I realized is that this moment that I'm in right now, this feeling that I have of I want to go back to sleep, I don't want to be doing this thing, I'm just like burnt out, is the moment, is the time that I'm going to look back at and be like, this is why I was able to do it. And it was so hard in the moment, but once I was able to frame it that way, I got a little bit excited. It was weird. I got a little bit excited about being able to put myself in that situation. Now, we need to start to ask ourselves is how is it that we can bring that out of us? And we'll talk about a few strategies today in terms of how we can start to deal with being more resilient and what is it we can start to do. Because when it comes to resilience, whether you're in your professional life or your personal life, there's going to be a time where you're going to have to step back up. Right? In Judaism, we have this idea that a righteous person falls 7 times and gets back up. And the difference between a righteous person and a not righteous person is the fact that they get back up. And this is something that is so core when it comes to the ideas that we want to be doing in our daily lives. So regardless of which area of your life you are looking to step it up in, you have the ability to be resilient. You have the chance, the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I want to be doing more. I want to be able to be put in a situation where regardless of the result that I can't control, I am going to be the same person. I'm going to be able to revive myself to get up. And we have to be realistic because sometimes it's not going to be right away. Sometimes it might take weeks or months or years possibly to get back into it. But it's the thought, it's the idea, it's the perseverance, it's the knowledge and knowing that, hey, I will be back and I'm going to conquer. I'm going to rock this specific thing that I'm looking to do. So we have to try to figure out what is that we can start to do it. And the first place we need to ask ourselves and start to seek what is going on is to really see when is it that we failed. What are times in our lives that we're able to bounce back? What are times that we wish we would have just been able to have a little bit more energy and we wish that we would have known, like, you know what, if I would have just pushed it a little bit longer, like I would have probably made it. And once we could start to try to understand ourselves, then we could start to see, hey, what are the common themes that happen? When is this time that I really step into this defeat? Because for so many people, when once they get hit with any type of resilience, and that might not even be considered real resilience, it's just it's the one time like something doesn't work for you. So we have to start to realize, hey, what is it that I can start to do about it? And this is something that happened to me in the 20s. When I was in my 20s, because for so long I thought I deserved. I was so entitled in terms of like I know this should happen. And what I realized is that I'm really entitled. Like I really believe that I deserve things. And because I believe that I deserve things when things didn't happen, then what really happened is that I ended up messing myself up. I realized that, hey, you know what? The world's not going to be so nice to me. I got to figure this out. And I'm still working on it. But what we have to understand is that we all have this ability in ourselves. How hard do we take the hits? When things do go wrong, how much are we beating ourselves up? Because if we're beating ourselves up a lot, we have to realize, you know, it might not be worth it. It might not be worth the time, the effort to really do those specific things. And we have to start to change. And there's going to be a time that we're going to need to change. Because if we don't change, then all of a sudden things aren't going to work. And I remember this happened to me when I was in one of my businesses, one of my coaching programs that I was offering. I had this specific idea that I wanted to market it a specific way. It was within a specific newspaper, and it was during the summer where I knew like thousands of people got it. And you know, somebody I knew the guy who ran the newspaper, so he did me a favor. He gave me a deal, and I was going to spend a couple $1,000s in advertising for a couple of weeks in this newspaper for my new coaching program. And what was so exciting about it is that I did it. Like I came up with an ad. I paid somebody to come up with a really, really nice ad. We put it in the newspaper. We got it out there. Got the eyeballs on people, like friends, like were taking pictures, sending it to me. But I only got one call from that ad. And I was so deflated and so down, not just because I only got one call, but even the one call was another newspaper saying, hey, do you want to advertise in our newspaper? So it wasn't even like a lead. And I was so frustrated because I really thought that this one direction that I was going to have was going to be the way. Like this was going to be the thing that was going to really jumpstart my success. And what I finally started to understand is that no, that's not necessarily the case. I have the ability to say, hey, I think this is going to be it. That's my strategy. But guess what? The strategy might not work. And if the strategy doesn't work, then I have to learn how to pivot. And I think that's the hardest thing that happens to people that don't know how to pivot. They put up this brick wall in front of them that they're not able to take the action. But what we have to start to realize is no, that's not how it works. The brick wall came up, but I could still go around it and try a different direction. And I remember I was so frustrated for I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks. I was so frustrated. And then I realized, I'm like, Bennett, come on, like remember what you teach. Like literally there has to be another way. And I started to think, what is it that I can do? And I thought about somebody that I know and I asked them, would you be willing to send an email out to a group of people I know he's involved with. He's involved with a bunch of different educators. And I'll ask them and offer them, hey, I know this guy. Would you be willing to, he would be willing to help out in terms of coaching with any of your students? Would you be interested? And I got 4 or 5 leads from that. And it was incredible because that was the thing that really started that section of the program and really started to lift it up. And it was so powerful to me because I was so gung-ho about this one direction of running ads that I didn't think about anything else. And I had other ideas in my back pocket, and I started running other types of events, and then I started to speak, and I started to do all other things that really helped me grow my business and the direction of my company. But what we needed to understand is that it's not just one way, because and maybe you do get that, but like you're going to keep going down the path, and then at some point the path is going to get blocked up, and we have to start to ask ourselves, what is it we can start to do to start to shift it? So here are a bunch of things, different things that we can start to change up just a little bit. Number one is we have to realize that we can't make a big deal out of it. And this is something that happens, I think, for a lot of younger people more because I think they are a little more entitled. But what we have to realize is if we are making a big deal out of everything that doesn't work for us, we're giving it so much more energy than it deserves. It doesn't deserve this much energy. The things that we want to be doing that we're not able to do, or the things that we think we should be doing, and life just tells you, hey, buddy, it's not going this way. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. Like, we can't get so caught up over it. Instead of being so frustrated, get curious. And I love that word curiosity, because if we could start to get curious in terms of why things happen, what was our expectation? What went wrong? What do I have to do differently? Those are good questions to ask, because then you can learn based on your past experience, and then you can also start to change it for the future. So you're winning on both ends. But for so many people, they just start blaming the past. So they're not thinking about the future. So that's cut off. So they're stuck wherever they are, and they're living in the past. We need to try to ask ourselves, what is it we're going to do about this? How am I not going to give this energy? Something goes wrong, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I remember there's one time, like I was working on a property, and an electrician called me up. He's been, I got bad news. And I got bad news. And I'm like, hey, Mike, I decide whether the news is bad or not. You just tell me the news. Like, that's your job. He's like, all right, boss. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna have to replace this thing. It's gonna be a couple $1,000. I'm like, all right, so do it, fix it. Like, what else? What else are we gonna do? Like, I could have gotten frustrated, could have gotten annoyed, but guess what? Would have had to still pay the money. It was the only way to move forward to get past the thing. So what we have to start to realize is that, okay, like, how are you going to handle those situations? What is it we're going to do about it? And that is something that comes so powerfully when it comes to resilience, because for so many of us, we get so drained and so sucked up every little time. And guess what? Once you start to get drained once, it's so much easier the second time, and the next time, and next time, and next time. And all of a sudden you're becoming this thing, this person who every time you get tripped up, they're not even boulders. They're just like little pebbles. You end up you just stay down for so much longer, and you don't allow yourselves to be able to move forward. So what are you supposed to do the next time? So another strategy we have to recognize is that we have to start to take the small steps. For so many people, they're so lost and they're so overwhelmed, and they're overthinking like crazy, that they end up not recognizing what is the next step I need to be doing. And I was just recently listening to a coach of mine, and she was talking to a group of people, and she was breaking down somebody's to-dos. And you can see the face of these people, of this person, when she was breaking down the to-dos, that this person had zero idea about how to do like half the things that she was saying. And at the end, the coach, smart, very, very smartly, right, told her, like, I want you to take one step at a time. I only want you to focus on this one thing. And once you're able to do this one bullet point, then we'll move to the next bullet point. Yeah, of course, you don't know how to do any of this stuff. Maybe you don't do like 20% of it. We're not going to focus on all of that. And that's what most people do, is they think about all the things that need to happen. And then they get so overwhelmed, and then indecision comes in because they're so scared to move. They become like deer in a headlight. And what we have to start to realize is, no, I do not have to be that way. I have the ability to start to change. I can take some small steps. And if it's the next step you need to be taking is a big step, break it up even smaller. I'm telling you, you can even break it even smaller. It's like, I have to call this guy, and this guy is going to, make it worth it or not worth it. So how about you just dial the phone number? Don't call. Like, that's the next step. How about you just pick up your phone? How about you just get his phone number? Right? You could literally break it down into smaller and smaller steps, because we don't realize how many things are necessary for us to do it. Think about it. Like, when you want to call somebody, right, you have to open your phone. You have to click on your phone. You have to click and start to dial their name in, and then click on their name. And then you have to press the call button. Like, there's like so many steps, but if you think about it, it's like, no, I just pick my phone and call the person. It's like, okay, because all those steps we bunch together, but there are really many steps throughout the whole process. So we have to try to figure out what is it that we need to be doing in terms of our steps, in terms of what it is we can start to move forward. Because, and this leads me to my last point, we get so worried and we get so stuck, and we start to overthink. And once we start to overthink, that's when we're gone. And for so many people, this curse of overthinking holds them back. How many of us are just so stuck in terms of being able to move forward because there's so much indecision? We don't know what it is we're supposed to be doing. We don't have the ability to be able to move forward and take the action that we want to be taking. Then if we can start to put in a position, hey, you know what am I supposed to be doing right now? How am I supposed to be taking this action? What can I do to make sure that regardless of what's going on, I'm not going to give it the energy. I'm not going to overthink about what's going on. Because at the end of the day, when somebody does get tripped up, and you have to go through this period of resilience, like, it burns. But we can't wait. We have to be able to get out of there as quickly as possible. And for some people, they dray and they just overthink, and they just destroy themselves. While other people are like, no, I need to move quick. I need to be able to get myself out of it. And what is it we can start to do to be able to do that? And if you're somebody who really, I don't want to say suffers from this stuff, but if somebody who goes through certain things in life and constantly is holding themselves back from succeeding, you need to ask yourself, like, why is it? What is the belief about this? And I remember for me, when I was going through the real estate phase, I was always petrified of inspectors. Like, that was my thing. I was petrified of inspectors. Like, a lot of them were like the nicest, sweetest people. A lot of them were really mean and whatnot, but a lot of them were just the nicest people. But we have to realize and ask ourselves is, if that's the case, what is it we're going to be like? Why is it that I'm so scared of inspectors? And when I thought about it, I realized, it's because, like, I know somebody else who's been in the construction business who used to always talk about how, like, petrified he was of inspectors because they were always so annoying to him. So because of this other person's belief, I have this belief. And now because I have this belief, I'm not able to take certain actions. It's harder for me to be able to move forward. And it doesn't have to be that way, because it's just a belief. It's somebody else's belief also, which is like the saddest thing, that somebody else's belief is holding me back from being able to move forward. So we need to start to ask ourselves these certain questions to be able to try to just get things going, because I'm telling you, resilience is real. We're going to have to learn how to move forward. And if we don't learn how to move forward, then we're not going to be able to take the certain action that we're looking to take. Let me know if you have any questions. Like always, we'll see everybody on the next one.